Welcome back to Nightcap Chat, the pop culture podcast. We talk all things comic books, video games, movies, TV shows, and more. Today we are talking isolation comic book reads. And those are comic books that we can read as we all sit here in quarantine. I'm Blade O'Neill.
Ken Brown.
I'm Lance O'Neill.
All right, and this is a special episode of Nightcap Chat because we are also streaming the recording of this live on Twitch.
Yeah, say hello, Twitch.
Hello, Twitch.
Hello, Twitch.
We are on Tales of Lance, the Twitch channel. Lance has talked about it before on Nightcap Chat, so we thought it was appropriate to do something a little special. So anybody joining us on Tales of Lance is getting this week's episode early and next week's episode.
Yeah, you guys get, and it's raw content.
Yes.
So if there's any little mistakes or fun little things, you guys get to get it and no one else does.
Yep. Because every time we screw up, like now you guys get to see it because sometimes I do cut things. I make little markers, cut stuff out. I don't always. Sometimes it's right straight through.
Yeah, usually it goes pretty well. It's organic and we're able to do it. But sometimes we just draw blanks on certain things. Like, okay, this is just really bad. No one can think of something, and yeah, it's pretty bad.
Hello, Dark Phoenix.
Here.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is also pretty unique because we've got a little chat here. So if you guys have any input, just bring it on here. But before we delve in, thank you all for listening and taking the time to like and share and subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, Podbean, or wherever you may be listening to Nightcap Chat. We are on social media, Nightcap Chat. You can see it on the little Twitch frame thingy there. It's at Nightcap Chat and at Nightcap_chat on Instagram. So yeah, today we got some comic book suggestions because we all need things to do in isolation. We've been watching movies. We've been selling stuff on eBay, right, Ken?
Yes, it's been a busy day of listing stuff on eBay today. Put up about, I put up 15 auctions.
Wow.
And then put up another, more or less buy it now. So I think another 20 of those too. So I try to keep the number around 200. I was down to the 160s. So maybe I put up about 25 today because, well, more than that too, because I had auctions closed. We had 10 auctions closed today. So we're at 184 right now. So it was probably right around 195 before everything started transitioning. So I had a week of auctions end, and I put up a week of auctions that were new and put up some other buy it now items too as well. So pretty busy day. Instead too, talking with some of my other friends that called in today too. So it was kind of trying to stay focused on doing multitasking of doing eBay listings while being on the phone.
Yeah.
It's kind of keeping everything going, seeing what's going on with everybody else in their lives too, and making sure everyone's all good. So it was a pretty productive day today, I gotta say.
Great. It's always good to be productive. You gotta stay busy.
Yes.
I saw you listed a Red Hulk, and like that brought me back some memories because
yes.
There used to be a store, a comic book shop out here called Atomic Comics, and when that launched, they had
their own cover.
They did have their own cover, but they had a signing at the store, and I'm trying to remember if it was Ed McGuinness or Jeff Loeb or both.
Might have been both.
It might have been both. Now that I think about it, but I went to that, and that was a really neat thing. And I remember the mystery of like, oh, who is Red Hulk?
Yes.
Yeah, that was actually kind of fun and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
There was so much speculation and buzz around that. Oh, who's this new character? Who's this going to be? That was kind of fun.
That was one of the best kept secrets in comics for a long time, because now everything kind of comes out of like that. Oh, social media blows everything up so quickly as soon as somebody sees some kind of concept art of what's happening. And now, back then with that, it was really, even though social media and all that stuff was still there, it was more or less people were enjoying the story. And Jeff Loeb is king of putting out these red herrings of who these characters are. Mm-hmm. He did the same thing in Hush too, which is another Jeff Loeb property that he wrote before writing Red Hulk, and it was a lot of fun trying to guess who Hush was the whole time too. But that Red Hulk mystery was a lot of fun trying to figure out who is this guy and who is it supposed to be and who is it, who is it going to be? And do you guys remember the big spoiler on it too as well? Or should we save that for people to read it?
The big spoiler for Red Hulk or for Hush?
Yes. It's been over 10 years, so I hope it's long enough time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's common knowledge. If you to me, if you don't know who Red Hulk is at this point, I don't think you care enough to find out now
who it is.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean was I the only one disappointed by the Red Hulk reveal?
I was.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of egotistical, like more or less trait of the person. General Ross is the only guy that thinks he can outthink the Hulk in every aspect of things. I remember we used to joke about like what happened to his mustache when he turned into the Hulk, but then when he goes back into General Ross, his mustache is automatically back. Do you remember that at all?
I never thought of that, to be honest.
Yeah, they did that. So somehow when he radiates, his mustache disappears, but when he goes back to being General Ross, that mustache is back. I could see going the opposite way, but not, you know what I mean?
Right.
When he's Red Hulk.
Yeah, like when he turns into Red Hulk, the mustache grows like super long, maybe.
Or just burns off.
Yeah.
Because he gets all hot.
Yeah, and then like when he just goes back into General Ross mode, it's like it's suddenly back out of nowhere. There's no time frame for the mustache to grow. It's just automatically there when he goes back to being General Ross.
Ken, I never thought about that.
Yeah, me either. I think it was okay. Like it was just like whatever when they announced who it was.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you found out. But I think it took a little something away from it once they did Red She-Hulk.
Yes, absolutely.
Because then you're like, okay, here we go. Now you had a good like kind of original idea, and now you're just refabricating it. I don't know. I wasn't a fan of that. As much as I kind of liked her, like how she looked, I kind of thought that was a little blah.
Too obvious.
Yeah.
On top of the fact that it was Betty Ross.
Right.
It's like you get a Hulk transformation. You get a Hulk transformation. It's kind of like what they've been doing with Spider-Man lately too. Like there's Spider-Gwen, there's Miles Morales, and then everyone gets a Venom, or a symbiote,
Man, remember Spider Island when they did the whole freaking story where everybody
that's
got
another thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
Everyone gets Venom costume. Yeah. Nice.
Mary Jane gets to be Spider-Woman for a day. Everybody gets to be Spider-Man, Spider-Woman.
I mean, the whole thing though, it is a fun read because like as that whole story arc progresses, I mean, like there's some big players in there. Like if I'm not mistaken, like I think Thor shows up at some point. I want to say Namor, right?
Yes,
like
Red Hulk was
there's some big
everybody.
fights. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always fun when you get those big names in some fights.
Mm-hmm.
It's always an exciting read.
I remember the first time Red Hulk took on Green Hulk and he just mopped them up, and Green Hulk had to kind of like rethink what it meant to be a Hulk. Remember that? He's going like that. Oh my gosh, who is this guy? And how could I even match his rage?
Well, Red Hulk, when he like in his like one of his early comics, he like took out Terrax.
Yes.
Silver Surfer, and he was riding Silver Surfer's surfboard with Terrax's like axe, and he was going after Galactus, right?
Yes, it
was ridiculous. It was like, what is going on?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sorry, dude. Just like I remember those moments. God, what the heck is happening here? How is like Red Hulk this powerful, and who is this guy?
And then didn't he fight Thor, and he like took out Thor too?
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, I almost thought like didn't he catch Thor's hammer?
He crushed
the end of it or something like that.
No, he used the momentum of the hammer. He wasn't technically carrying it or something, but he was using the momentum to make Thor get hit by it or something.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know. It was a reach. That's what it was.
I mean, Mjolnir's not a can of tuna or something. Like it's a magical hammer. Like that's too much when they make these excuses. I mean, it was kind of annoying. I guess the Ultimate Universe is a little different, but like I remember like Ultimate Hulk kind of being able to pick up. Although I guess technically that was Stormbreaker, so the rules are different.
Yeah.
I guess you know what I mean. But yeah, I mean like that's a fun read.
Speaking of Ultimate Hulk, my favorite thing is when he got mad at Betty for dating Freddie Prinze Jr. Do you remember that?
No.
Yeah, dude, there was
Mad at Betty for dating Freddie Prinze Jr.
Yeah, like I guess like yeah, in Ultimates, I think number 5, Betty was on a date with Freddie Prinze Jr. and Hulk crashes the date.
That's so funny.
Yeah, which was pretty hilarious, dude.
Played in the comics as opposed to what, real life?
Well, I don't know. Like
opposed to Hulk crashing Freddie Prinze and Freddie Prinze Jr. and
I guess I was just making sure that it wasn't like a commercial or something, or like a cartoon, or just making sure I was keeping my source material straight. That's crazy. Yeah, I wasn't even going to bring up the Red Hulk thing, but like seeing you list that on eBay reminded me about that. I'm like, man, like. And the plus, like, I can't believe that was 12 years ago that came out. Like, that's another.
Isn't that insane?
That
That's
is crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
The first one I wanted to bring up, and I just want to get it out of the way because I think it's something we're all going to recommend anyway. And we've probably said it 1,000 times on this podcast.
Yeah.
If you have not read Infinity Gauntlet, read Infinity Gauntlet. I don't think there is a comic book arc or a comic book series that I've read more times than Infinity Gauntlet. And I've lent it out to so many different people that I've lost copies and I've had to rebuy like the little graphic novel collection. Like I recommend it to everybody. Like it's no joke. And you really get to see what was different. So like, even if you appreciate Endgame, it becomes such a different story that I think you're still in for an adventure,
Yeah, especially with the whole Celestials and those type of beings that you didn't get through in the movie. And it just showed, and on top of it has such a variety of big name characters that chances are there's going to be characters in there that you're going to enjoy too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's such a good read, and it's just awesome.
And I think it'll help you, appreciate Adam Warlock and Death a lot more, because I'd be really surprised if we still don't get them somewhere in the MCU, especially with, Adam Warlock being the after the credits scene in Guardians 2. And like we've seen from past concept art that, Marvel's been thinking about Death. I mean, she was even mentioned in the Avengers after the credits scene. There was that reference for the Chitauri Oracle to Thanos, to challenge them to court Death. Which is another reason why I'm just incredibly disappointed that we never got Death. And I will keep complaining about that forever.
I feel like we'll get it eventually. I think we will.
I just wanted the love story,
Yeah.
But it's okay. They gave Thanos a good motivation. But on that note, who's got something next?
I got to throw in Bendis's run on Avengers.
Okay.
Starting way back with Avengers Disassembled.
Okay.
Did you ever read the Bendis run of Avengers? Yeah, go back to Avengers Disassembled when Scarlet Witch went nuts.
Oh, is that tie into House of M?
Yes, and it goes into Secret Invasion. It's just like an epic run ending, I would say, that ties up with a Siege being more or less the final wrap-up of that saga. Because it goes from the Avengers Disassembled when Scarlet Witch went nuts to House of M, which was, to me, like a whole universe in itself that you could read during being in the isolation mode of reading right now.
Yeah.
And then just coming out of that, going into Civil War actually first, and then Secret Invasion, and, the Dark Reign era where Norman Osborn was in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D. Then finally, like the Siege where Asgard was stuck on Earth and having the whole thing of Osborn trying to take over Asgard. It was just one epic story after another, leading up into like the death of Ares, Sentry, do you know what I mean, versus Ares in it. You had World War Hulk during that storyline too as well, even though that World War Hulk wasn't written by Bendis, it fit in to everything that was happening during that era. And it was just epic story after epic story building up on top of each other. And
did you say
just having
Secret
it all
Invasion happened during that too?
Yes. Yeah, Secret Invasion was part of that too, because Bendis touched on all the different things the Skrulls had to go through based off of the different things they did not expect. Like House of M almost threw off the whole Secret Invasion because they made their plans contingency off of what Earth was like before they got there. And Scarlet Witch changed everything on its end, and they had no idea how to deal with the mutant side of everything. And so they're going, oh gosh, well, we guess we got to put our plans on hold until whatever's happening here gets figured out. And then after, Scarlet Witch said no more mutants, it made it easier for the Skrulls to attack because all of those extra threats were out of the way for them too.
And especially since it's a more modern Avengers story, and some of the things we're already seeing kind of set up in the MCU with like the Skrulls and such, I wouldn't be surprised if certain things going on with the Avengers and Norman Osborn and even things like Dark Ray and Secret Invasion, I would be surprised if the MCU didn't start pulling from this particular era, of storytelling. I mean, they almost they didn't do World War Hulk, but they kind of almost did a little Planet Hulk there, in within the Thor Ragnarok story. I mean, they didn't do it full on, but it kind of took the back seat to Ragnarok for sure, with Gladiator Hulk there,
Yes, absolutely.
They definitely have been taking a lot of newer storylines and then mixing it a little bit with some of the original ones too.
Yep.
Which is good because it also keeps it fresh for for us who have read it. We're not going to go see a movie and we know everything that happens because that would be boring. We wouldn't want that. As cool as it might be, it's nice to not know what's going to happen next, right?
Absolutely.
You just want the essence, to be there, and it's always fun to see what comic book accurate things you get. Like, oh wow, like Civil War with the Accords.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Right? Like the Accords, it was a little different. It wasn't the same as it was in the comics, but it was just a little different, right? It wasn't everyone has to register and all this crazy stuff. It was, hey, you can register if you want to do hero acts. If not, then you just can't run around being, So it was a little different.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I thought for sure, after the credits scene in Spider-Man Far From Home, when it turned out that Fury was a Skrull, I thought for sure Secret Invasion was happening.
Me too.
And then it brought me back down when I realized they were calling it in, and it was intentional. But I thought for sure, I was like, "Oh, we're jumping right into Secret Invasion." That would have been a little fast because literally Infinity War just like wrapped up, and we're already jumping into something crazy,
I still think there's potential for it though, definitely, because there has to be some bad Skrulls,
for sure
out there still.
I just think they did good Skrulls too soon. I would have liked to have seen that be the resolution to something like Secret War, because I still want to see the Fantastic Four fight Super Skrull.
Right.
Yes.
I want that to happen. Even at those I almost said Josh Trank, but that's not it. It's who directed the old Fantastic Four movies? Was it Story? Was it Tim Story? Or was he the writer? Anyway, doesn't matter. The ones with Jessica Alba and Michael Chiklis. They didn't do Super Skrull, but the way Johnny Storm started kind of getting all of the Fantastic Four powers.
Yeah.
Like it was very Super Skrull-esque, which was actually kind of annoying. I just wanted to see Super Skrull. Because as far as I know, I don't think anything like that has happened in the comics that I'm aware of. I mean, you're right, Ken. Are you aware?
No, and I've never seen that before. Human Torch getting everybody's abilities. Not that I remember.
It was just it was a Super Skrull thing in my mind.
You could have that rivalry between the Fantastic Four and the Skrulls start by Reed Richards taking off the ally of Nick Fury and starting a rivalry with Earth based off of something that Reed Richards does that kind of compromises him. And because they did become the rivalry in Fantastic Four, you know what I mean? Like that, where it's like that Reed starts more or less revealing to the world all these people that are actually Skrulls. And it kind of like, no, we're supposed to be in exile. We're supposed to be in protection. And Reed's all like that. Here's a list of everybody that's Skrulls in the world. And it kind of like, just like that completely compromises all of their hidden anonymity. That kind of starts the rivalry between the Skrulls and the Fantastic Four.
Yeah. And I guess, they can go to space. So I guess, this isn't necessarily if it have to happen on Earth, if they did do it.
Because didn't Reed turn a bunch of them into cows?
A bunch of Skrulls?
Yeah, that's like that. Why the Skrulls kind of don't trust humans at all anymore.
That's funny. I don't remember that.
Yeah, I want to say it was in Fantastic Four #2.
That's hilarious.
Somewhere along the line where maybe not that early back, but he turned some Skrulls into cows and just let them graze. Think they were cows and they're just grazing off on the mountaintop.
So if you killed them and ate them, or they?
That's what Skrull Kill Crew started from. It was from eating infected Skrull cow meat.
So,
and
so what is this? Like mad cow disease, but it's like mad Skrull disease?
Yeah, you ever read the Skrull Kill Crew series that Grant Morrison and Mark Miller wrote?
No.
Yeah, dude, it was out in the mid-90s, and it was people that were infected by eating the slaughtered cows that were actually Skrulls.
Good job, Mr. Fantastic. That's his fault.
Yeah.
Didn't think that one through, I guess, huh?
Exactly, dude.
Wow.
It's like that, yeah. Milk does a body good.
As long as it's not Skrull milk, I guess, yeah.
Exactly.
Is that green? All right, too much. Lance, do you have one to take this off a Skrull milk here?
I got a couple. I'm gonna start with I'll do one of the bigger ones. Avenger versus X-Men.
Nice.
Okay. I think if that was a really fun read. Again, similar to Infinity War, where you're going to get a lot of big name characters. You're not necessarily going to get like Celestials and everything, but you're going to get big name characters. You can get obviously all the Avengers and all the X-Men, and how the fights and everything plays out. It's just fun to see, obviously cool fights with like Namor fighting Hulk and Cyclops fighting Thor and all these crazy battles.
And a whole thing with the Phoenix Force. Yeah.
The Phoenix with the Phoenix Force. It's such a good read, and everything that goes on with it behind the scenes. It's so good. It's a really good read. So if that's something you haven't read, and you want a more modern comic, that's definitely something that I feel like you should go with.
And let me blow everyone's mind here for a second. If you're on the fence about reading it, if you download the Marvel Comics app, Avengers vs. X-Men is one of the things to read for free right now.
Nice.
So you have no excuse not to read it. And then after you enjoy it, you can go buy it so you can collect it, because that's, I like to collect. I like to have the tangible copies, but if you're not sure about it, you got the chance to read it for free,
Yeah. And also I know it's, reading comic books in person, like a physical comic is completely different than reading it off an app. It just takes a little bit away from it. But you can't just go on there, read the first couple comics of the series. And if you get hooked into it, then go out, buy the comics and finish up the series. Mm-hmm. I think that's a great way to go about it.
Yes, absolutely.
No, I completely agree. And I have a lot of the Avengers versus X-Men.
Yeah, it was a good series. I honestly didn't think I would enjoy it, but I enjoyed it a lot. I read the whole thing in one sitting. I just sat down and read the entire thing.
Yeah, it's another one of those. Wasn't it a Bendis production as well? I mean, I said too, that was his big lead-in. That was the setup for, I think, the X-Men coming from the past to the present, to a way to bring back the old X-Men and bring back Jean Grey in a way too. Wasn't that more or less Bendis' lead up to that? Because Uncanny Avengers started right after that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Uncanny Avengers.
All new X-Men. What was it? The Bendis X-Men, wasn't that shortly after all that?
Yeah, because there was an X-Men that came out of, or no, X-Men. I was thinking Avengers for a second, because I think Deadpool joined the Avengers shortly after this.
Yes,
I remember that. Yeah, there was an X book as well. That's kind of slipping my mind.
Because Uncanny X-Men became Cyclops' team. And then the X-Men, there was also Wolverine in the X-Men, and then they brought back the original X-Men through a time stream jump somehow.
And that was the Jean Grey school one, right?
Yes, because Wolverine started the Jean Grey school.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And Hope's in the Avengers vs. X-Men.
Yes, and Hope is the one that was like that. She was a major part of that story too, but when like that, because more or less that started with Schism, where Wolverine and Cyclops went separate ways on a political view, right? And that led into, that's where the spin, okay, so Uncanny X-Men that's the one that was Cyclops' team, and then Wolverine and the X-Men was Wolverine's team that eventually led into Avengers vs. X-Men then, right? Lance, am I remembering that right now?
I don't remember
if it's
which way or after. Yeah, I
because the X-Men time traveling X-Men came after AVX. I remember that for sure.
Because I remember there was a new Deadpool ongoing series. I think it was after Avengers versus X-Men. And I just
was that when he was killing the presidents?
Yep, it was so stupid. It was so stupid. It was zombie presidents and then fighting Frankencastle. And I don't even know what else. Like they literally couldn't do anything that wasn't like absolutely asinine. You know, it was so annoying. And right around that time too, in comics, they stopped doing newsstand editions. You know, so I have like some of the last Deadpool newsstand editions because I kept finding them at Barnes and Noble, I think.
Yeah.
That was kind of like somewhat upsetting when that happened. I always like going to get the newsstand versions of the comics, but it's good because it saved me money. So
yes.
Yeah, weren't they always like $1 more for some of them?
Were they?
Sometimes I think they were, but they always were more valuable. I know that was the big thing. Was like, oh, you have the newsstand version. Oh, well, the price of this comic's now go through the roof.
Yeah, the print runs were like a fraction of what the direct editions were at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also hard because it was also hard to get a good copy because they're just sitting there and people just touch them and they're always messed up.
Always wrecked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys still hear me okay? I dropped my headphones.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Since we're on the topic of Deadpool, this is a convenient segue for my next recommendation. So I'm gonna go ahead and take it. If you can get a hold of or of a way to read, because there's graphic novel collections of it too. The 1997 to 1998 Joe Kelly run of Deadpool. It's the first Deadpool ongoing series. And if you think you're a Deadpool fan and you have not read it, you are not a Deadpool fan until you have read it. Like, I don't even care. It is good. It is funny, but he's not fighting zombie presidents. You know, like there's some good stuff in there. Like in the first couple of story arcs, I mean, like there's a fight with Hulk. There's a fight with I'm gonna say Wendigo, but I know that's not correct. Sasquatch. Wolverine, I think, is in the first 20, 30 issues. And then, of course, you know, it touches on his origins. The first time we got a Deadpool origin in there's a Deadpool Death Annual 98. That's part of that run. And it ties into, I think it's the story arc around issues like 14 through 16. The whole thing with Francis. So if you've seen the Deadpool movie, like you'll realize like how much of it draws from the Joe Kelly run of Deadpool, which was really cool to see, you know? And even Daredevil's in there too, I think. Typhoid Mary. Really good stuff. Have you, I mean, you read it, right, Ken? Or at least some of it?
I read the majority of it. I said too, what I really got more into Deadpool, really got me into Deadpool was Gail Simone at the end of the run when Udon turned, with Dazzler and the fact when he sawed off Rhino's horn and turned it into his keychain.
Okay.
That to me was one of the most hilarious things of having a little mini Rhino on keychain.
Taskmaster's in that story arc too, right?
Yes, that's what started the Taskmaster Deadpool relationship seriously too as well, which was a lot of fun. It was a very big prequel to the Cable and Deadpool series.
Yes.
I read the majority of that. That was a lot of fun because it's really kind of took that relationship of like Cable and Deadpool's their rivalry and turned it into a odd couple type of comic series.
Yeah.
Where like Deadpool started more or less looking up to Cable at that point. And so it kind of changed the dynamic of Deadpool going more from an anti-hero almost into more of a good guy that's kind of a little bit more goofy than he was earlier in his storytelling. And because he was like definitely one of the best mercenaries to ever exist before that relationship that he developed with Cable, and Cable kind of softened him up a little bit over time.
That's what got me into that series got me into Cable as a character, actually, because I realized just like how cool and how powerful he was. Like the first time they meet within that series, like they're both going after the same thing, but like Deadpool is either trying to catch it and like Cable's trying to kill it. It's like they have like the opposite of tensions going after the same thing, and Cable's just not having it. So he uses his psychic power just to blow Deadpool's brains out the back of his head, and Deadpool just dies. And he does it to him twice in a row, and Deadpool just starts getting frustrated. And
one of my favorite ones too was I think Apocalypse turned Nate Summers back into a baby. What was the whole thing there?
And then
Deadpool had more or less
in the series, I think.
Yeah, that was like in I guess the late 20s, early 30s of the issues of it. Deadpool kind of did like a lone wolf and cub thing where he raised baby Cable.
Yep.
There was there's some fun out of the box thought processing. I think that's really fun to read about Deadpool. And
there was a lot of original things back then. I think that's the big thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was kind of the end of it. Of Deadpool. I'm not saying Deadpool's a serious character, but Deadpool being taken seriously because like he still exists in the Marvel universe. Like he's funny because of how crazy he is, and like the fourth wall breaking like still works when you look at it from the other character's perspective, kind of like, wow, this guy's just like talking to like nothing over there, and like it worked on so many levels, and now it's just silly,
Well, that's why Deadpool's he's ranked, as the strongest superhero.
He's really powerful.
You see that because he just because of the fourth wall thing, because he's capable of killing because he's capable of destroying the Marvel universe.
That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But like Deadpool can heal better than Wolverine on some days. Some days he can't. But like if he's in the right mindset, like his regenerative power, can be better than Wolverine. Like he was reduced to like, I think like a hand once, and he came back from that. Like crazy stuff like that. The Cable Deadpool series, I think, is actually the first time they mentioned him looking like Ryan Reynolds. Because I think when he was getting frustrated, he rips off his mask and he was like, how would you feel if you looked like a mixture of a Ryan Reynolds and a Shar-Pei or something? Like, he says it in the comic book, and then like we went on to actually get that, which is pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, definitely the 97-98 Joe Kelly run of Deadpool. I cannot recommend that enough.
Now that's an interesting question you said about the whole Deadpool breaking the fourth wall. Does that make Gwenpool on that same level then too? Because she's actually reading the comics before she gets into them.
I haven't read any Gwenpool stuff, so that's right? That's what she does. I think I might have read something about that. That's like her whole thing.
Yeah, pretty much like that when the incursion was taking place of all the different reality. Remember, we're bouncing. Jonathan Hickman wrote the story that led into Secret Wars, where all the realities were bouncing into each other, and one would survive and the other would be destroyed. Well, technically, our reality was one of those realities, and she escaped onto the mainstream universe that way. And so she knew how to kind of survive because she read so many comic stories. She saw how, this is how I need to survive. And so she kind of has all the spoilers inside of her head because she's read everything.
Deadly Leaf said that looked like it hurts Blaze's head. Yes, it did. Because I just think it's so uncreative,
Oh, it is.
It's just so bland. Like I don't get the appeal. It is, but what are we doing? Like we don't have any better ideas than this. Like, I think I grabbed a first appearance of Gwenpool somewhere just for, I don't know, probably to sell it or something, but I can't do it. Cannot do it. Okay, I think we have time for one more comic from each of the two of you.
Oof. Okay.
I gotta go with Flashpoint is my other one. If we're gonna go with the other opposite end of the spectrum, is Flashpoint for DC.
I haven't read that, but I saw the movie.
Yeah, because I'm such a big fan of House of M. At first, I hated the idea because DC's House of M, but it was a lot of fun to read a reimagination of the DC universe, almost like where I felt like they Marvelized the DC universe in a way.
Are you talking about because of the stuff that's in the future?
Yeah, the concepts, just the kind of like the story concepts that they were doing felt very Marvel-esque to me in a way of, gosh, I'm trying to think of like some good examples of why I would think that.
Because just like that thing with time travel, and there's all
with time travel for one thing, but just let me see here too. Just the whole, I don't know, it just felt like there was reimagination, everything that they do, but it almost was better in the reality that they did in Flashpoint than it did in the regular DC reality. And afterwards, they produced New 52, which was the most successful DC's ever been in years, because in sales, Marvel's owned DC for many years in a row. And that was the first year in, I want to say about probably like 10, 15 years where DC overtook Marvel again as the best-selling comics.
Yeah, that was that was a big turning point for both of them, because that was when Marvel started going downhill a little bit, because they were putting out bad comics after bad comics around then, right? That's when they did Civil War 2, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Deadpool was bad. Civil War 2 was not, I didn't really care for it. Yeah, that was a big little flip flop in the comic book industry, not in the movie industry, unfortunately for DC. But yeah.
Yeah, luckily the movies kind of gave them some ideas in a weird way, because Guardians of the Galaxy kind of revitalized Marvel.
Yeah,
I'm saying that because like it was something that people didn't have a whole lot of history reading with it. There's not this huge mass population of people that said, "Oh, my favorite title reads Guardians of the Galaxy" before that movie came out.
Yeah.
I mean, like Dan Abnett and Bendis did a soft reboot of them a couple times, and they were doing a little bit because they were more or less surviving off of Thanos as part of that story during the Abnett run. And then the Bendis run is like when they were setting up, like, okay, this is what our movie Guardians are going to look like, so start telling stories that look like the movie Guardians. And that's when you got your Brian Michael Bendis, the new Star-Lord look was introduced at that time. They brought in, oh gosh, dude. Did they bring in a couple new characters that weren't part of the team? Like,
Iron Man was part of the Guardians for a little bit.
Yeah, you're right, dude. They brought in Iron Man for a short period of time with the Guardians too.
And they brought in Angela too.
Yes, that's right. Angela was another member of the team that they brought in as like new members of the Guardians of the Galaxy. But that was to me the first incarnation of something that looked like what the movie was going to be like.
I actually read a lot of the Guardians that had. I read all the Guardians that had Angela and Iron Man in it, and I actually enjoyed it. And I also love Gamora. She's like one of my favorite characters. She's up there. But yeah, I've always enjoyed the reads of the newer Guardians.
Yeah, some good stuff.
What?
But Flashpoint, one of my favorite parts of Flashpoint was when they did the Batman story. Did you ever read the Batman Flashpoint story?
No.
You talking about the whole thing with his dad?
Yeah, where Bruce Wayne died and Thomas and Martha survived.
I didn't read it, but I know of it.
Yeah, like Martha Wayne ended up becoming the Joker, and Thomas Wayne kind of became like a Punisher of Gotham City, where he helped more or less create crime in Gotham City just so he can know where the crime was at and how to defeat it. It was pretty twisted thought processing by Thomas Wayne. And,
weird.
Like Harvey Dent never became Two-Face, but Harvey Dent like ended up being happy and having a family. Well, the Joker, who was Martha Wayne, actually kidnapped the twins of Harvey Dent. And Harvey Dent hired Batman to go find his twins. And it was like Batman versus Joker, but it was like Bruce versus Martha, which was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot of good stuff. And I think the Flashpoint animated cartoon the movie
Yes.
that they did. It touched on a lot of that stuff. They didn't go that far into it, but I mean, like they show that scene where like Bruce gets killed in the alley instead of, you know, his parents, and you know she becomes the Joker, and like it's really good, and like they even kind of stick to the way they end, and he kind of like, I don't want to spoil it, but like it ends the same when the Flash comes back from that. It's really cool, and that scene I'm pretty sure is like straight out of the comics, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was really good. The Flashpoint animation had a few tweaks to it, but overall it was very true to the original story content. I said too, that's one of my favorite rivalries in comics, even though I'm not the hugest Flash fan. The Reverse Flash, Professor Zoom dynamic against Flash is so much fun to watch Flash meet his equal, and he just totally manipulate everything about him because he can travel the train the same way that Flash can. And just to kind of go back in time to more or less, okay, he's the one that killed Flash's mom, was just such a weird dynamic that even they brought into the Flash TV series in such a perfect way too as well. And it was just kind of an interesting, you know, the Flashpoint created so many good stories around the DC universe where the Flash is more or less sometimes a forgotten member of the Justice League, but he used to more or less rewrite or reboot their whole universe rather than doing a Crisis for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would make a great DC Universe movie. And it would be a great way to like reboot certain things that they're trying to do, especially like with Ben Affleck, you know, not being Batman, like use this as kind of like a Days of Future Past jumping off point to kind of do what you want from there and keep people like Gal Gadot and Wonder Woman, or as Wonder Woman. Deadly Leaf in the chat says, am I ever getting my Joss Whedon Batgirl, or did they throw that out the window? I think they threw that out the window.
They I think you're still getting Batgirl, right? You're just you're obviously not giving Joss Whedon as doing it.
Okay.
Well, I don't think they're doing the movie. I think it kind of got mixed up in that whole Birds of Prey chaos. But now, yeah.
Yeah, I think Birds of Prey was like a big cluster mix of Gotham City Sirens, Harley Quinn, Catwoman plots, and Batgirl plots all taken, and then like, okay, let's change up the characters, but let's use all these different stories and put it together.
But good news on the Batgirl front as far as live action stuff goes, and sorry if you don't want to hear this, but you can mute us for the next 10 seconds here. From what I understand, the next season of, is it Titans? Is going to have Batgirl in the first episode.
That'd be cool.
Or at least Barbara Gordon. So I would expect to see live action Batgirl Barbara Gordon at least in there. But we also have I think it's Jeffrey Wright. I hope I didn't get his name right. Is Commissioner Gordon in the new Batman. So, I mean, he might have a daughter, so we'll see. So yeah, I mean, it shouldn't have taken this long to have her pop up again. Like, I don't know what DC is doing here, but they're wasting time, you know, trying to write a movie about, what is it? The Trench? Or what is the Aquaman? Like,
the Trench. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the movie no one asked for and no one even wants, you know? Give me a break. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing.
All right, Lance. One more. Take us. All right. Take it away.
I had two, but I'm just going to eliminate one since one of them we already talked about it a lot, and I talk about it all the time.
Which was what?
Which was Black Cat.
Gotcha.
Just her series and everything. And we talked about Black Suit Spider-Man and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So the one I'm going to talk about is Angela. So trying to go a little smaller scale. I think reading Angela's story, she's a newer character. I don't know if they will use her. They probably won't, but they still could. You never know for the movies. But she's a really interesting character. She's newer. Her first appearance is in the end of Age of Ultron, which was
Ultron number 10, I think.
Number 10, yes. It was the last comic. she's in literally the last page of the comic, by the way. She's like, it's just the last little thing.
My Age of Ultron number 10 is in a sealed blind bag. So I never,
Me too.
I never looked at it. I have no idea.
There's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of different ones. There's different ones that are, all the variants are also bagged. And you
are they?
open it.
Gosh.
I have a bunch of variants that are bagged. But yeah, it's a really good comic. Right after that, she goes into, I want to say it was Original Sin, her storyline.
That's when they revealed that she was actually the sister of Thor and Loki, right?
Yep.
In Original Sin.
That's right.
And she's, and it's just a really good read. Just her behavior and how she acts is really cool and interesting and is a little different. She's like, that noble warrior thing. Obviously there's also a lot of backstory with Odin. He's always the cause of some BS. He's always ruined something in history. Like, I think as comics go along, you just grow to hate Odin. I think more and more. You're like, wow,
I like
this guy
Odin.
Yeah, but he's just, it's like, he's so, once you like read like all these things, it's like, he's so full of himself. He's like ruined all these different like worlds for no reason. And
there was reason. It was just beyond their comprehension.
He's the Tiger King of the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, he's such a bad human. Like, he's not even a good, I wouldn't even consider him a good guy. He's like a
Zeus
borderline
in like Greek mythology. He's like, that's like role of like the, the all father kind of character in mythology. You go around and
you ruin everyone's life.
Yeah.
But it's a really good read. She's a really fun character. It's cool, the whole dynamic of her realm or planet, however you want to call it. And the fact that, there isn't 9 realms, there's 10, and hers was the 10th, and Odin was keeping it, away. And she finally broke free, and she was, running around. And it's just how powerful it is. Like, I think, once you see her, there's certain comic book characters that you see their like outfit, and you're like, this person's so cool. Like, this person looks like so like, badass and stuff. Like the first time I saw Iron Man, I was like, I want to read that. Or like first time, like Ken, you saw a black suit Spider-Man, and you're just like, wow, really cool. So she has an awesome costume. It's really cool. There's a lot of yeah, she's redhead.
Couldn't she potentially be the Wonder Woman of the Marvel Universe if they handled her right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think she'd be awesome in that role.
Yep.
There's a lot of backstory. So like, if you read through all of her comics, it goes back to like the 1400s, and she goes over, she even does some stuff in hell, and it's a fun read. I don't want to spoil too many things. I'm trying not to say too much. But she's a fun character. I'm trying to think. Oh, and one of the first fights she does, she like, it was cool. Like, which really hooked me. Little spoiler. She runs into Thor, and she just kicks the crap out of it. Like, literally, like in like 5 panels, she just kicks the crap out of him and drags him by his cape to the person she has to bring him to. It was just an awesome introduction to her character.
And while you're in there getting to know Angela, and if you don't already know this, it's time to get familiar with this fact. Angela was initially not even a Marvel character. Angela was a Spawn character. Angela's true first appearance is Spawn 9.
Number 9.
I think it is. She was a Spawn character. And there was this whole thing on the rights to Angela. I think it was was it Todd McFarlane and I want to say Neil Gaiman? Is that right, Ken?
Yes. Yeah, Neil Gaiman created Angela as part of a group of stories that Todd McFarlane more or less commissioned out, or not commissioned out, like where he lent Spawn to other writers to write one-issue one-shots.
Yep.
I think it started with issue number 8 with Alan Moore writing the story, and then it went up until issue number 12, I think, where number 11 was the Frank Miller story. And Neil Gaiman did one, Frank Miller did one, Alan Moore did one, and David Sim did one too, which is not even allowed to be reprinted in any Spawn graphic novels.
Yeah, all of that. All of those Spawn appearances, like you don't find them in the Spawn collections when you buy them.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like, is Spawn number 9 reprinted inside of their trades still? It's got to be, because that Angela story was so defined. She finally died in issue number 100, when like that was the height of the lawsuit, because Todd was trying to more or less claim ownership of the character after Neil introduced her into the story. And it's ironic because Image Comics is all about creator-owned characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the true irony of the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm a huge Todd McFarlane fan. I have nothing but ever good things to say about Todd, but that's the one case where you kind of don't have any water to swim in, because the whole concept of your company is creator-owned characters. Mm-hmm. And just because that character appears in your book doesn't mean that you own that character. It was just something that Neil never gifted Angela to Todd. He just created her. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to take her and do other things. And Todd's like, no, this is my character now because I developed her more than you did. And it's, it was kind of it went in court like that. Neil was right. It's like, hey, dude, your creator-owned property company, you're pretty much arguing with yourself if you win this lawsuit. Mm-hmm. And Neil was allowed to take Angela anywhere he wanted, which was kind of a smack in the face to the whole Image concept.
Yeah, and now it's at Marvel. So
honestly, it's doing great. In my opinion, I love her.
Yeah. So on top of a great Marvel story,
sometimes better concept.
Yeah, and you have a great kind of just regular Earth story, to go along with it, and you have some Image comics to collect and some Marvel comics to collect, because I think I got a couple of the Spawn #9 just because it's fun when you used to find it. I don't know how much they're worth now, but I'm pretty sure I was getting it. Are they? Because I swore I got it like a $1 bin or something.
Yeah. Try to find a newsstand one, like Lance was talking about before.
Yeah, I don't have a newsstand of that, but I do have a newsstand of Spawn #1.
That's hard to find too.
Yeah, that's a better that's a more valuable copy than just the regular Spawn #1.
Did you know those were printed on different paper too? I think the paper quality is not as good as the direct edition.
Huh, I almost
want to double check that. Compare your Spawn #1 direct edition versus your newsstand edition. I think the paper quality is not as good.
I don't know if I have a regular edition. I have to, but I'm interested in feeling the difference. I want to almost take it out of the bag and board and check that out. That's really interesting. Huh. But yeah, I said we wanted to keep it short, but it was still about a 40-minute episode.
Well, that's short for us.
It is, because the last episode was 2 hours, right?
Yes.
But yeah, you guys on Twitch land, stick around because we're going to knock out one more real quick. But the rest of you listening on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, CastBox, and wherever iTunes distributes their RSS feed, we appreciate you all taking the time to listen. If you will bless us with a rating on iTunes, especially, we'd really appreciate that. That opens up the door to more and more different opportunities. We're on social media at Nightcap Chat on Facebook and Twitter, and at Nightcap_chat on Instagram. Ken, a little bit about Drawn to Comics in this.
Yeah, Drawn to Comics. We are normally a brick and mortar store that's located at 58th Avenue in Glendale, downtown Glendale, Arizona. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And as I said, right now we are doing a lot of eBay listings and curbside pickup and delivery at the moment. But we will be back as a regular brick and mortar store as soon as this all opens back up to the public.
Lance, I know this is your Twitch channel, but little love for iTunes.
Okay, well, iTunes, hello. This is Lance. You can come catch me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Tales of Lance. That's Tales, Tales. It's an Iron Man joke. It's Tales of Suspense.
Yeah,
I know. And then you can also catch me on Instagram at O'Neill.Lance.
And we appreciate you all listening, and have a good night, and catch you all next week or in 5 minutes.
Have a good week.